Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn for Leaders and those who want to be. I'm Jill Valdez, owner and founder of Link Consulting, and it is such a joy to be able to present to you today and have this conversation. We record these, we meet every week, Thursday at noon Pacific time, and of course, we record them as well. You can always go to my YouTube channel and be able to watch past episodes and because not everybody's able to make it, but welcome for today. Today, we're going to be talking about resilience, embracing resilience, nurturing strength in turbulent times. Recognizing today, we want to recognize that there is strength when we all come together and are able to work together. Today, we're going to embark on a journey to explore resilience, not just as a concept, but actually as a guiding principle in fostering harmony and strength within us as leaders, which then that transfers out and goes into the rest of our team. So let's talk about what is resilience. Resilience is not merely bouncing back from adversity, but it is embracing adversity as a catalyst for growth. I was on another meeting earlier today and we were talking about catalysts. We were talking about people who serve as catalysts. And I knew that we were going to be having this conversation and talking about how resistance, it is that thing that can cause a whole different outcome. It's the spark that starts a fire. It's, when you think about like how a pearl is formed, it's the catalyst is a piece of sand that gets in there and then the irritation that happens. And the clam is resilient to the sand. And then the outcome is something very beautiful, something that we value. So resilience, it's kind of like, think about a tree. We here in the Pacific Northwest, and Ken, I know where you're at. I know that being down in San Diego County, sometimes with those Santa Ana winds that come through, here we get some pretty big winds that come through from the east. And a lot of times that there's trees that fall down, but a lot of times there's trees that stay. And so resilience is like that. It's that sturdy tree that it bends with the winds of change, but its roots are firm and keep it from toppling over. So let me ask you this. How can you relate to resilience? How do you relate that in your leadership role?
Ladies first.
Basically, it's just being aware of what's been happening and kind of trying to turn the corner and bring everybody together, find that those cohesive points where we can support each other, in our in what we do, what the work we do, and how we can support each other in personal growth.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the way I see it.
Good. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, it's my turn. So as a fundraiser in higher education, I just think what I'm in quite often are conversations that aren't necessarily a negotiation. Are you going to give? Okay, how much? It's rarely like it's never like that. But I do think resilience plays a role because so many of the conversations down the road don't end up becoming realized as a donation, let's say. But that's not the end, because it's not about just the transaction, it's about relationship. So you have to have resilience to keep the relationship going. Otherwise, if you're not resilient, you can't be sturdy in the wind of someone not giving, and that's the end of the conversation, then you just become transactional and you just look for new people
Yeah.
to see if you can flip, help them understand the value of a gift, let's say.
Yeah.
What often happens in my situation of being resilient is just not taking it personal that they didn't give after a great conversation of cultivation and even a solicitation where I say, will you prayerfully consider this, that, or the other thing? And then you hear nothing. And I'm resilient in the fact that I'll call them back and see how they're doing. That's one example.
Yeah, that's really good. And it's the same thing for any leadership role, that resilience of not just giving up because the outcome wasn't what we originally had expected or wanted it to be.
Right.
And so that's part of resilience, is that power of acceptance, embracing reality as it is, recognizing that, in our journey of life and leadership, we encounter challenges, we encounter setbacks, and we encounter unexpected turns. We hear people saying no, we have people not show up to work. And those moments, they can leave us feeling overwhelmed or frustrated or even defeated, but how we respond to those challenges, that really defines our resilience. So embracing reality is about facing these challenges head on without denial or avoidance. Resilience means that we're going to acknowledge the fact that something is happening that's not necessarily pleasant. It's about acknowledging the truth of the circumstances, no matter how uncomfortable or difficult they may be. It is not about walking around with your head in the sand and just ignoring, because the people that you're leading, they're not ignoring it and they're needing you to talk about it. I remember when I was at a company and people knew that layoffs were coming, but nobody was talking about it. Well, we needed to be talking about that. We needed to create a space where people could talk about it, so that then for the people who most likely were going to get laid off, their feelings were being acknowledged. For the people who were staying, the change that was going to take place needed to be acknowledged and being talked about. So the acceptance, though, it goes beyond just acknowledging it. The acceptance part of resilience means that we're actively choosing to adapt and evolve in response to the realities. So we talk about the realities, we face the truth, we acknowledge what's really happening, and then we accept it, and we talk about then what are we going to do next. So think of it like this. It's like navigating a ship through a stormy sea. Acceptance isn't about pretending the storm doesn't exist or waiting for it to pass on its own. Instead, it's about recognizing the storm for what it is, right? It's about saying, okay, this is our reality. Now I need to set the sails accordingly. And then I need to chart a course that allows us to navigate through the turbulence with strength and purpose. So in the context of leadership, embracing reality means being transparent with ourselves, with others, about the challenges that we're facing. It means having the courage to confront difficult truths, make tough decisions, and pivot when necessary. So when we talk about acceptance, it's not passive. It's not passive surrender to fate. It's not like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. It's an active choice to embrace reality and forge ahead with resilience and determination. Another thing that we do when we talk about resilience is we need to make sure that we're nurturing harmony. And that comes from creating a safe space. Leaders who foster an environment of acceptance and understanding, we're hearing people talk about this more, about psychological safety in the workplace. But it's a really important, it's important to have that. We need to have a space where people can feel comfortable coming and sharing their feelings, sharing their fears, sharing what their concerns are. And so when we have that environment of acceptance and understanding, we're promoting that amongst our team. So let me tell you about a case study that I was reading about. So Pixar Animation Studios, they have a culture of openness and vulnerability. And what they found is when they did that, it really led to breakthroughs. So they have these brain trust meetings where filmmakers gather to critique each other's work in progress. Could you imagine that? Sitting around being like, here's my work that I've done. And the whole point is to sit around and go, that's not so great. Oh, I didn't like that. That color stinks. The music is bad, whatever. Now, these meetings are characterized by an honest and sometimes brutal feedback delivered with the understanding. And this is where we talk about healthy conflict. I mean, some of the other, obviously there's trust that's built there, but it's all with the understanding that it's in service of making the film be the best it can be. So by embracing that vulnerability in these meetings, Pixar has been able to identify and address creative challenges early on, which leads to smoother production processes and more successful films. So ultimately, Pixar's culture of openness and vulnerability, it serves as a powerful reminder that true innovation requires a willingness to take risks, make mistakes, and learn from failure. So by creating an environment where individuals feel safe to share their ideas and vulnerabilities, Pixar has been able to push the boundaries of animation and storytelling, creating some of the most beloved and successful films of all time. But that piece of resilience comes in from understanding that the purpose of that meeting is to come up with the best film, not my favorite, not my best, but the best. And so the resilience is for those filmmakers to come out of that meeting and not feel so beat up and so defeated that they don't know where to go and they don't know what to do and they give up. We need to build these resilient places where we can come and share and talk about what's going to be in the best interest of the company that we're leading and the team that we're leading and the clients that we're trying to serve, but also with an understanding that we're going to walk out of that with a resilience of saying, I'm taking this stuff, I'm taking what we talked about, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to make things better. To make things better for myself, better for my team, better for our customers. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next, we want to talk about how to build resilient cultures. So we know that they're important. We know that we've got to have companies and places where people are willing to bend and flex and flow with whatever the situations are that are happening, because we live in a time where bad things are just going to happen. We don't live in ideal situations anymore. So here's how we can build resilient cultures. First of all, leading by example. I probably could say that about any topic that we talk about in these lunch and learns, is that it's important for us as leaders to lead by example. Demonstrating vulnerability and resilience as leaders, it sets the tone for the culture. When they see us doing it, then they will feel more comfortable doing it. They will feel safe doing that. So we as leaders being willing to say, hey, this is hard. I'm struggling. I'm not sure what all the outcome is going to be, but I know that we're going to figure this out together. I know that I'm committed to doing our best, whatever it is that's appropriate for the company that you're leading or the team that you're leading, but let them know. And if ever you're not sure if you're leading by example, ask yourself this. If one of your employees came to you, if one of your team members came to you and said exactly and described that they were in a situation that you were exactly in, how would you respond? And if you're going to respond differently than how you're behaving, then you're not leading by example. Another thing that we do to build this resilient culture is empower others. encouraging autonomy, fostering this growth mindset. It empowers individuals to navigate challenges confidently. We do not, and sometimes, and look, I know I've been guilty of it from time to time. If there's a turbulent situation, if there's something that's not going according to plan, as a leader, we don't come in and take control and say, we're going to make all the decisions, we're going to make this happen. You know, for those of you who've gone through cracking the communication code, a D type of leader, that tends to be their natural response is, I'm going to come in, I'm going to take control, I'm going to fix everything, and you guys just follow along and it's all going to be good. And there's a time for that, and there's a place for that. But as a D, even, it's still, okay, I'm doing this, but I also want to empower you so that I'm not doing it all. When we set people and we bring them in to have them be a part, all of a sudden they get to learn what it's like to get out of that fixed mindset and have a growth mindset. So can you reflect on a time when you witnessed or you exhibited resilience in your leadership journey?
Ken, you want to go first?
Oh,
Turn the table.
she did a Pixar film. She flipped the script. Holy cow.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because, and Jill knows my role at the university where I work pretty well. I don't have a team per se. So I would have to go backwards. So while I'm thinking of that, why don't you go? No, I'm kidding. I don't mean to do that to you. I'm just having fun. So, could you repeat the question?
Yes. Reflect on a time when you witnessed or exhibited resilience in your leadership journey.
Boy, this goes back, but you know, I would say back to my days of lower education when I was a high school football coach, because I'm in higher ed now. But no, when I was a high school, you know, teacher and coach, there were many times where I would observe things, and as the head coach and maybe a little more experienced than most of my assistants, younger people, I just couldn't fix everything, even though I knew what the right fix was.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out, as the head coach or in any organization, leader of the organization, you have to decide, you know, what your leadership style is going to be. And if it's going to be my way, by way, that's okay. You just better be good at hiring and onboarding, because you're going to have a lot of turnover.
Yes.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
If your style is more of understanding, you want to let young people make mistakes, then you have to understand that knowing which hills to die on
Yeah.
and letting
Well
certain
said.
things that allow them to learn, if it's not necessarily the best way, but if it's something, you just have to make a quality judgment on how many people will this impact. If it's something going on that's going to impact the entire team, and at some level cost us a chance at success, what that success isn't not always the, you know, wins and losses. It's the one that's most prevalent. But that's what I would say. And I think that the leader who is teachable is the one that can allow, if you're a teachable leader, meaning your mentor can impact you and you listen and then you got a chance to be that kind of leader for others.
Yeah.
If you're not teachable and you know it all, then that means you're not going to be patient. You're going to go fix everything.
And
Yeah.
lose a lot of people.
Yeah. And not be modeling resilience, because this is the only way, and that is not a resilient person. Somebody who is so stuck in how this is the only way that things can be done, and what happens when things don't work out that way. And that, I mean, that's everyday life. You plan on getting out and going to work, and you walk out and you have a flat tire, or you have a dead battery. I mean, it can be as simple as that. But if you're so set that conditions have to be perfect in order for success to happen, that's challenging, because conditions will never be perfect, and will continue to not be so. The more that companies struggle with turnover, the more that companies are struggling with having engaged employees, struggling with having people in place that don't have the leadership training, yet they have the leadership position. Those are imperfect conditions, and people need to learn how to flex through that. Yeah. Did you have anything to add to that, Irene?
Well, I mean, twice since we've lived here in Oregon, I've experienced where I worked, they were closing. First one in 2000, I was an employee there, so I got to see, that from an employee perspective, how they, prepared us and etc. And then, how we all talked about what are we going to do next, because there wasn't an option. It wasn't a chain store situation. But so I mean, I really admired the team that was on hand there to help us get through it, and be open to talking to us and listening to our concerns, etc. So then when I was working as manager, pharmacy manager, and I had been at that particular location for 14 years. It closed in 2015. And so, I mean, it's like not only me and my pharmacy, it was a small pharmacy staff, me, another pharmacist, and a couple of technicians. I mean, we it's like, how are we going to get through this? I had a good model to follow, so doing that. And but not only, was I concerned about, my staff, and we still support each other. We're still good friends. So, I mean, it's like, but also too, the other people I worked with in the store, this particular chain was like the chain grocery store, and it was family founded, so I mean, we had all been there a long time, and so we were like family. So I mean, supporting my fellow employees that were in other departments, as well as my customers who were concerned. It's like, I don't want to go to so and so or whatever. What am I going to do? So we all got through it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that at the beginning of 2015, corporate executives had sent out a letter. We had a great year in 2014, and 2015 is going to be even better. It's like, I just found that letter the other day going through stuff, but so I was like, but I mean, just you talk about being aware and respondent. As a leader, or even if you're not a leader, I mean, just being in a position where you're an active listener, and really listen to their concerns, and then maybe ask the open-ended questions. What is it? Dig a little bit deeper. What is it about the situation that concerns you? And how can we work together? How can I help? Whether I'm talking to my staff or store employees or you know, customers. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And then, Irene, you think about what you've done, I think about how you've now taken all of your knowledge and your experience and really in an act of resilience have said, I'm going to start a whole new service,
Mhm.
and go out and serve people in a different way. So yeah, that's fantastic.
Pay it forward. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, and I want to be aware of that. Again, I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to talk about resilience. The strength of resilience comes in how we are working together and how we work together as a team, how we as leaders are setting the tone for acknowledging the fact that there are tough times and that we're not going to just lie down and let the tough times take us out. As leaders, it's our responsibility to model resilience and say, we're going to get through this. We're going to stand strong. We're not going to let this take us out. We're going to do this together. We might not have all the answers, but we're going to look at current circumstances. We're going to adapt. And then leaders are going to listen well to the concerns that those on their team have to say. And again, it's about validating, but we don't have to stay stuck in that. It doesn't have to become this woe is me kind of situation, because that's actually not resilience. Resilience acknowledges the circumstances and then adds an and says, and we're going to get through it. And it's not going to take us out. And it's not going to overcome us. We're going to continue on to being able to be the amazing team that we've been. And we're going to be able to continue to figure out solutions because we're committed to each other. We're committed to the clients that we're serving, and we're going to keep moving forward. So I hope that today, leaving this, you will pledge to foster a culture of resilience and acceptance within your organization. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everybody here and the insights that you had to add for our conversation today. If ever you want to get a hold of me, you can go over to linkconsulting.info. You can find out more about the people that I'm serving and how I can be a resource for you and your leadership team. And also, if you go there, you will find that you can download my free book, Confident Leadership, How to Be a Confident Leader of a Committed Team Providing Stellar Service. It is my free gift to you. I hope that you will join us next week. I will be updating the topic in the calendar invite. And of course, if you missed today, we do record it, and so you can catch it on the YouTube channel. I will make sure to have all of that information in the show notes. And I hope that you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks. Bye, Ken.
Bye, Irene. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.